We're here with one of our most favorite people in all of the nearshore market, and especially Brazil, Antonio Gil. As many of you know Antonio, he's one of the most dynamic, interesting people in our market, president of Brasscom, and somebody I've always personally really enjoyed listening to. And you have a very unique place in your role in this organization, in this culture. What I want to start out talking about is you've had an international business career. Right. You're now in a role where you're trying to influence the way the government perceives the international opportunity. What are the ways you try to influence policy, the big thinkers in Brasilia, around what ICT means to Brazil?
Well, first, thank you very much for the introduction. Second, I'm not trying to influence the government only. I think our task is bigger because, like you said, I have had a long and international career. I worked in many different countries and, of course, the most part of my life in Brazil. And I think that now we are reaching a point where something different must be done. Because it's no longer a question of how to use IT. Like I said, Brazil is the 7th largest IT market in the world, is one of the most sophisticated markets. So whatever we do, if we continue doing what we're doing, it's okay. But the problem now, at least in my personal vision and in Brasscom vision, is that we are reaching a point where we are trying to see how do you use IT to create an engine of growth in Brazil, an engine for development in Brazil. So my public now is no longer CIOs, CEOs of companies that should be using more IT. My public is the general public, like the housewife that has to understand if she doesn't teach her son or daughter to use IT in their career, in their studies, and so on and so forth, there will be someone in Vietnam that will take their jobs away in the future. So first public is mothers and housewives, assuming that they are the ones that take care of education of this. Number two is the public in general. People has to understand that this powerful tool that they have in the hand, 260 million such devices, are linking them to a new world and new possibilities. Then business people, because they look at IT as a cost, an expense item. They don't see what that can be done as a tool to modify their businesses. And lastly, the government. Because frankly, when we see where technology is today, when we see the opportunities that lie ahead, for instance, take for a minute, there are now 350 million people that, let me call them emergents, people that will consume health, education, security, travel, and so on and so forth, banking, and they are not in the mainstream of the economy. These people, because of the new technologies that are available, like mobile, like cloud, like, broadband, and so on and so forth, the social networks, they will be capable of using this technology at a much cheaper price, and that will make them part of the economy. So it's a big task. And I'm sure that I forgot some of the key points, but it's a big task, and I feel very lucky to be where I am today and help this.
Now, why does Brasscom care so passionately about these issues? What is the real driver around the social inclusion to get more of this population involved, integrated?
Well, exactly what you said. I mean, for instance, We are in a country that produces 25% of the world food. And as we move in time, Brazil is the basic solution to food in the world. Take, for instance, the 5 big land masses: US, Russia, Canada, China, India, Australia. They have some, but not all of the conditions to produce food, like water, sun, technology, land, and so on and so forth. Brazil is the only country that has the 5 things that are necessary. Even the U.S. doesn't, because the U.S. doesn't have additional land. So think how important it is, what IT can do to help. And we are helping. We've quadrupled the output of grains in Brazil in the last 30 years with intense use of IT. Embrapa, the research center, and INPE, the space institute of the Brazilian government, have helped bring the technology from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere. And that's why we have that. So think about the possibilities. There are billions of people that go to bed without food. So it's a very challenging thing to be doing.
Well, one of the topics I care a lot about, and I think we share this, is something we've talked a lot about in the past, and something I struggle with in reconciling is Brazil has a tremendous track record, great history on welcoming individuals from around the world. So you have immigrants from Germany, Italy, Japan. Now you're in this classic crossroads, a word we kept on using this morning, where there's concern, serious concern about the ability of Brazil to keep up with the demand for this specialized IT talent. Is there not a more important time to be revising the way Brazil accepts immigrants? And are you seeing any improvement in that area?
This is a question that comes up all the time. But let me back a little bit. I mean, there is not one country in the world that has the same melting pot that Brazil has, not even the United States. I mean, you said a few countries. Europe, for instance, Italy is the second largest population of Italians in the world. Germany is the second largest population of Germans in the world outside of Germany. Spanish and Portuguese, same thing. Japanese, same thing. Central Europeans, same thing. But most important, 90 million people that have Afro descendants. And just wait. When you put all this thing together, you melt it, and just wait to see what's going to happen in the future. Brazil, in 1945, Stefan Zweig wrote a book that called Brazil, the Country of the Future. And our friends and enemies as well have used this as a joke for the past 50 years. Brazil, the country of the future, and it will always be. He didn't say Brazil, the country of the future. He said Brazil, a country of the future. And if you want to know how the world will look like 50 years from now, come to Brazil. And all of these people came on a very friendly manner. They were received very friendly. You can talk to anyone coming from wherever you ask. They feel at home. Brazil has been very receptive. I think that the current legislation, to be very honest, is stupid. Because, you know, we could bring thousands of Europeans from Portugal, from Spain, not even had the problem of the language to fulfill the needs that we have today. Unfortunately, bureaucracy sometimes creates problems. But again, it's not only Brazil responsible. Take the case of Spain. They probably will never let me go into Spain anymore. But many tourists from Brazil were detained in Spanish airports because they didn't want us there. Portugal should be very well ahead, because Portugal, in 1500, they came to Brazil. They took over everything. Then for the next 300 years, they used Brazil as a basis. When Brazil had a problem, it was very difficult to go to Portugal. When in 1975 or so, on the Carnation Revolution in Portugal, they all came to Brazil, and Brazil received them in open arms. When they joined the European Unity, all Brazil was closed. Portugal was closed for Brazil. It was very difficult. Now, we have another wave. But that is the past. I think Brazil should have a policy, and we at Brasscom, we're trying to convey this message to the government that we should open the immigration for high-skilled labor at this time. It would help Brazil very much.
Okay, Gio, well, it is absolutely a great pleasure always to speak with you, and always for Nearshore Americas to be invited to your annual event of this magnitude. We very much appreciate it, and I always look forward to seeing you.